As president of Americans for the Arts and president of the Americans for the Arts Action Fund, we work with about 5,000 organizations across America and about 100,000 citizen activists like you here in this room. And many of you are members of the Americans for the Arts Action Fund, and there's a booth out in the back if people want to become more involved and become a member of the Action Fund. And also the ArtsVote.org website has ongoing updated information on the current presidential campaign and other political events around the country. We're the national organization and network for advocating for the arts and arts education in every American community. All the arts, all the people. Professional art, amateur art, artists, audience, the whole gamut. And we want to work, and we do work, to see that the resources are there, federal, state, local, public resources, and also private dollars. The ad campaign, for example, talks about more resources for arts education. You saw a television ad all around the room, our newspaper ads. Some $130 million worth of donated advertising has allowed us to move the dime in America, 8% more parental involvement in pushing for arts support, arts education support in local schools. That takes enlightened political action, and it takes that action to create enlightened political leaders, and that's what we're trying to do here in New Hampshire with this particular campaign. Now, as part of the Arts Vote 2008 work, Americans for the Arts released our first ever pro-arts issue brief for presidential candidates. We worked with partners from across the United States, like the citizens here in New Hampshire, the National NAM, the National Organization for all of the music merchants here in our country and internationally, representatives here tonight, the United States Conference of Mayors, representatives here tonight. We work with these partners to create a comprehensive national vision for how the arts could be incorporated into our country's national policy. The core proposal of this 10-point plan is an increase in the support for the national sources for funding, like the National Endowment for the Arts. But we propose getting it up to $500 million, where it ought to be, not down where it is basically the amount of a pack of gum per American citizen that we actually have appropriated at this particular time. But the other points, like Van was talking about earlier, are just as critical. They address how the arts can be a vital catalyst in arts education, as Mr. New Hampshire and the kids just illustrated. Economic development, healthcare, transportation, and other areas. Oftentimes the arts are not discussed as a prominent factor in major national policy decisions on education and quality of life, even though we see it all around us and live it in our lives in any city in our country. So this short-sighted view of the arts needs to change. The 10-point plan that you can see on the website includes these 10 things. The first one, supporting the arts for the art's sake itself, and that means more support from the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the government agencies like the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Can a president make a difference on something like that? Absolutely. President Kennedy envisioned it. President Johnson made it happen. President Nixon was the one who created the biggest increase in the history of federal funding for the arts. Republicans and Democrats have had their ability to influence. Arts education, the second point. Rachel and a number of comments here have already illustrated the power of arts education, but we need federal education policies voted in and dollars put there that provide students a balanced education through the arts and allow them to excel in school and prepare them for a globally innovative and creative workforce. That's our second point. The third point, arts and economic development. I'm going to come back to this one, but basically supporting economic development policies and tax incentives to build communities returns revenue to local, state, and federal government through the taxes, and creates better art, but better communities at the same time. Housing and urban development. Support the efforts of our country's mayors and governors to expand and strengthen cultural programs and facilities through community development block grant programs, for example. That's how cities become better. That's how the arts can become part of that betterment. The fifth plan for us, the fifth point, transportation programs. Do you know that there's $1 billion in something called the Transportation Enhancement Act, and out of that, many public art programs in America get funded. We want to make sure that a visionary president understands those kinds of programs are there to enhance communities, and the arts can be a partner. The sixth one, healthcare and the arts. Often we don't think that maybe the arts have a role there, but 50% of American hospitals today involve the arts as part of their healing or environmental healing processes. Efforts there could include the arts in healthcare delivery programs, encourage initiatives that provide healthcare coverage to arts organizations and to individual artists. The seventh initiative, rural initiatives. A lot of our country is not in the major cities, and these rural initiatives, economic development, promote local artists and heritage initiatives by strengthening existing grants through places like the Forest Service or the U.S. Department of Agriculture. 8, public diplomacy. Support the cultural exchange programs at the United States State Department as a component of robust public diplomacy. Isn't that something that we desperately need worldwide right now? Let's not ignore one of the greatest communication tools we have, the arts. 9, national and community service. Support the expansion of service learning and volunteerism in partnerships with arts and cultural organizations as a primary need under our National Community Service Trust Act. And finally, number 10, national arts leadership opportunities. Support the inclusion of artists and innovators and creative sector leaders at all levels of government and public policy planning. We're not an appendage, we're not an add-on, we're part of the solution of the problem, to the problem. One of the objectives of our work in the next year is to secure bold new policy proposals in support of the arts and arts education in America from candidates in the 2008 presidential primary, and we have formally asked each of the candidates to adopt or expand points from the list that I just gave you, or to come up with creative, similar proposals of their own. And you can visit the website to see who is doing it and who is not, and how it changes as we go along. I'm very pleased to see that 5 of the Democratic and Republican candidates for president have come forward with policy statements. U.S. Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, former U.S. Senator John Edwards, former Governor Mike Huckabee, U.S. Senator Barack Obama, and Governor Bill Richardson all have formally come forward with position statements, and they're still tweaking them, and there's a lot of time as we get close to the primary. And with us tonight will be policy representatives from a number of these campaigns, the Clinton campaign, Huckabee's, Obama's, Richardson's, plus both Biden and Kucinich. So we have interest from these campaigns in listening to you, the voters who are the cultural sector voters. And you can imagine these statements, they vary greatly, from strong rhetorical support of the arts to firm commitments for specific arts spending. As the presidential primaries are now at our doorstep, we intend to keep the arts in the forefront and keep the pressure on the candidates.